I am Bruce Jones. I'm the Chief Executive Officer. I am not Mike Shepard, the Board Chair. Mike, unfortunately, was unable to be here today, but he does send his regards. And again, thank you for being here. We will dive right in, as we normally do, with our finance report from our CFO, Todd Stifler. Todd.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Todd Stifler. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I will be going through the first quarter of 2025 financial results. Starting with page 3 of your handout. I want to talk about first with the current assets, right down through here. As you can see, just comparing it with the 2024 amounts, we have decreased by $379,000, of which we transferred funds from the operating account down to the held by trustee restricted funds use assets. And this was for your interest and principal payments that we pay on the 2021 series bonds. Offset by this was the unrealized losses on your investments, and then also offset by that was your prepaid interest, insurance, which is right here, as you can see, offset the losses. Going down to your restricted assets, held by trustee, that increased by $1.1 million. This, again, as I mentioned, was for the transfer of funds for your interest payments that are paid semi-annually. Then the last item is Oak Bridge project costs. As you can see, that increased by $4.8 million. These are the construction costs that were on phase 3 of Oak Bridge. This was the memory care and assisted living facilities. And to note, we are on budget and on time for completion. So that's all good news. Next slide. Going back through the interest fee refunds payable, as you see, it's 0. If you remember first quarter, or previously, we talked about there was 2 refunds on queue. We paid those in the first quarter, so we have no outstanding payables at this time. The next item, accrued interest on the bonds. As mentioned, we pay semi-annually on these. These are the accruals that we put through, and we'll pay this on June 15th. And then the last item on the balance sheet that we'd like to talk about is on the Series 2024 Series bond. You can see that increased $4.9 million. As we discussed, this is for the drawdown on our $66 million bond issue from Hancock Whitney. Next slide. On the income statement, what we would like to talk about is overall revenue. Operating revenue, as you can see, we are right in line with budget. That's the good thing. I mean, we budget for, we're actually hitting our marks. Just to dive into this a little bit deeper, on the residential revenue, the IL, as you can see, we're down a little bit, about $101,000. This is related to our occupancy deficiency at Sawgrass. However, we do have 14 available units at this time. 12 of those are at 10% deposit. So once we get those renovated, we'll get those moved in, and that will help us get our revenue back for the IL. The good thing about this is health services. As you can see, we are favorable to budget, and we're favorable about $134,000, and that's about 6% over budget. The good thing about this is home health is $119,000 or 32% above budget, so which offsets our shortfall in IL revenue, and we're right in line where we should be. Going down to the expenses. If you look at health services that we talked about, they're unfavorable about $200,000. That is offset with the revenue. But the main driver of this is, like we talked about, it's a continuing shortage of nurses and the home health driven home health aides. We're using contractor labor versus full-time employees. So once we get that switched over, we get the more full-time employees hired, this will help us offset that cost. Going down now to the total, income from operations before net cash activity, non-cash activity. As you can see, we're pretty much right in line where we should be on the budget. So 1.6 to 1.6, we're good there. And then I know you can't read it down on the screen, but however, if you look at your handouts, we're at operating income loss, we're at 1.4 versus a budget of 1.8. And the main driver of about $346,000 is related to the earned entrance fees. We're a little bit short on that, and that is basically due to driven by our termination revenue. So, next slide. Cash flows. Again, if you read down here, our net or cash provided by operating activities, we're at $2.6 million. And basically, the main drivers of this is your interest fee, or your net interest fee, whether we received and what we paid off in the refunds, gets you pretty much close to that $2.6 million. Next slide. So as you can see, cash used by investing activities of 8.1. The main driver of that, as you can see, is the purchase of property and equipment. And a lot of that is for our basic routine and project costs. So that the 7.3 million, that's the main driver on that. Cash provided, cash provided by financing activities of 5.4 million. And as you can see, the main driver of that is our proceeds from the bond issuance, which is our 2024 series bond that we're using for our Oak Bridge Phase 3. Next item is and this is the cash statement item where we're at unrestricted use assets. As you can see, we're down about $1 million. And this is basically due to our transfer from operating down into our restricted funds. And like we talked about previously, it's the main driver is just going to our principal and interest payments accounts to make our interest payments in June. One other thing I do want to note, as most of you can see, is the Bank United $3 million that we put in there. For part of our 2024 financing at Bank United, the agreement was that we had to have some kind of cash holding in their bank, because they did loan us $30 million. So what we agreed to is right now the initial is $3 million. We're over the next roughly year and a half, it's going to be up another $1.5 million that we're going to hold at their bank. The thing was with this is a or I should say it's a debt service requirement by the loan. So this is just a holding account. So all this cash that we use up here is going to still be used in our days cash on hand, which now I want to lead into our days cash on hand. Per our covenants is 150 days. We are at 283 days. And then our debt service coverage ratio covenant is at 1.2, and we are at 3.5. So I'll definitely remain compliant with our debt service coverage ratio and our days cash on hand covenants. I believe that's all of my slides, so I can open up the floor for questions. Yes?
Well, sounds like a good report. Thank you. Do you have any areas of concern for the near future or spending?
For our spending? No, I think we're staying on track with our expenditures. And one thing I do like about where we're going with now is our interest fees. Because a lot of stuff is like right now, we have nothing in the queue. So all those interest fees that we get moved in, that goes right to my cash, or our cash. So our days of cash on hand should increase from the 283 well above our debt ratio, or excuse me, our debt covenant. Yes, Kay?
On the statement of operations, on your statement of operations, you stopped at other changes. operating income and loss, if you cut off the bottom of that statement, which goes down to the net change in assets, that you really shouldn't have done. I think Darren did that the last time, and you shouldn't delete half your statement. I think that we need to know what's going on in that part of that statement.
Yeah, well, we can add that next, but what the main focus was is what was all on our, related to our operating expenses and where we were from income off of operations.
But in that section, it has investment income, interest expense, realized gains and losses, our assets. So those are important items. And the net change in assets actually shows a decrease of 37,416 versus a projected 1 million. So you need to describe that and discuss it.
Okay, I can add that for next quarter. That's fine. Other questions? All right, well, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Warsiger. I'm the Chief Development Officer. And today, I'm going to share with you just some information from the Foundation Office. We just completed a very successful charity event. A record amount of money was brought in, over $135,000. This money will go back out to the community in the form of 4 recipients: Pie in the Sky, Wings on Meals, Meals on Wheels, and Epicure. Most importantly, and I have to shout out to the Oak Ridge Golfers, they participated and had a wonderful time. They did not win, place, or show, but they had fun. Also, very, very excited to announce that we are working closely with One World Fresh Ministries. Reverend Jim Cooper introduced me to this group, and we're working on a project that I'll be bringing to the group with more pictures, locations on the Sawgrass campus. Aquaponics is a garden that will produce vegetables that will be healthy, that will be served on both campuses, and in fact, we'll have such an excess of vegetables for salads, we'll be able to help local charities with that also. More information in September. Father Cooper, I see you in the audience. Thank you. Robert's great to work with, and we'll have more information in September. Next, I'd like to share with you the naming opportunities that I've been working with. You'll see some of the names up here. The Bobby West Pool, the Charlie and Yvonne, thank you again, the chapel. I'm also working with some outside companies that would like to name some things after their company. So this is something that my office is open and would love to visit with you all on that. Those naming opportunities, different rooms, buildings, etc. And last but not least, we have completed, it'll be out tomorrow. It looks like this, the impact report for the foundation. It has our financials. It has information of what's going on this past year, 2024, and real excited. Last year, we actually ran out of books, so they'll be in the mail room. Won't be putting them in anybody's box over at Oak Ridge and here on the Sawgrass campus. Thank you very much. And now, I'm going to turn it over to Kendall.
I think that was for me. Good afternoon, Kevin Bryan, Chief Operating Officer, and have a few access and construction updates to go over today. First, we're going to start with memory care and assisted living expansion over at Oak Ridge. It continues to run along very smoothly. The memory care building is expected to be complete February of 2026, and the assisted living building is on track for May of 2026. Allslight has been managing the project very well. There have only been a handful of minor change orders that have come through, but none of those have impacted the timeline. And once those 2 buildings are complete, the Oak Ridge campus will be 100% built out.
And next, I thought when I took over this role that you would have to never see another drone shot. But I have a drone shot for all of you, and it's a little bit dated because you'll notice there's an additional floor on the assisted living that's not in this video. So we can start that. Been interesting to follow the progress. So these are the shots that are looking from A1A towards the assisted living building on the left, and you'll see the covered pathway there between the two buildings. And probably in the last month or so, several of us have walked in those buildings, and they did mock-ups of a couple of rooms where they create a bed out of plywood, they create cabinets so we can go in there and open the doors and make sure everything opens correctly. So that's how far along we are on this. This is the memory care building, and one thing we're looking forward to is that corner structure. The second floor is going to be a very nice break room for staff. This will be what will greet you at the front door of the assisted living. And that is the dining room, which is going to have a great view to the water, the pond that's out back. And one thing that you probably picked up on is the size of the windows. There's going to be a lot of light coming into those rooms, and it's going to be very nice. For the next, on the parking garage and laundry facilities, this has been one of the most complex projects that we've gone through, and that's even coming from John Clark, who said this is very complicated. This new 4-story structure will include 78 employee parking spaces, because every now and then it's hard to find parking here. A modern centralized laundry facility that serves both campuses. There's going to be an enclosed generator to help reduce some of the noise from the generator, and expanded storage for operations. And one of the challenges is what lies underneath. There's a 60-inch drainage pipe that runs directly beneath the site, which adds significant engineering complexity, as you can imagine, with the weight of all that precast concrete sitting on top of that structure. Dale and his group have coordinated with the neighbors, including Players Club Villas, the PGA Tour, and Marriott. The Marriott has agreed to provide access through their property, which will assist with the delivery of all the supplies, and they're also going to assist with some temporary laundry processing of some of our bulk laundry items like tablecloths during the construction. We just got word that the county had their meeting today, and they did approve the project, so we've been given the green light to go ahead. We anticipate the construction being between 8 to 10 months, just depending on when these approvals, the rest of the approvals come through on the permitting. But that is moving forward, and we all look forward to the additional parking. Croquet court and pathways over at Oak Ridge. The design for the croquet court for a regulation half-size court is expected to begin this fall. With it being a regulation half-size court, it will give the residents the ability to host events or even tournaments over there. To accommodate the court, those adjacent walkways will need to be reconfigured, and as a result, we've had a number of requests to pave that current path. That's going to need to be on hold until after the court is complete. And then Dale's also taking a look at whether we can extend that concrete all the way up to that fence. So, but for now, that's still pending, but that plan is coming together quickly. Pedestrian access to Publix. They're continuing work on a safe pedestrian access between Oak Ridge and the Publix Shopping Center. They've had alignment from surrounding stakeholders like Wells Fargo, the Executive Center, and all the nearby business owners. The final piece they've been waiting on is Publix, who is the major stakeholder on that property. It was last week. Dale did get a response from Publix. They asked to review the plan, which is sort of a small step forward, but a positive one. So Dale's following up directly with them and coordinating the next steps on that. And we look at that project as being very similar in spirit to the access gate, being about safety, walkability, and reducing unnecessary vehicle trips. And so we'll continue to keep everybody posted as that moves forward. And finally, alternate access, the gate between campuses. It opened to the Oak Ridge residents in February, and in accordance with our agreement with Dr. Perry, on April 25th, the gate officially opened to Sawgrass residents with a blessing ceremony led by Reverend Jim Cooper. And it's working well. We have heard a few rumors that there are residents that are driving through the gate and parking in the dentist lot so that they can walk to Publix. Exactly. That's not part of the agreement. Dr. Perry supported this project based on trust, and if that trust is broken, we could lose access entirely. So we're continuing to monitor usage, and we'll hold firm to what we promised. If you know someone that is doing that, please ask them to stop. We all benefit from this gate, or you all benefit from this gate, but we all share the responsibility to protect it. And Elizabeth. That's for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Scholler, the Executive Director, and I have the pleasure today of reporting from all of the operating departments. They have provided updates as well as some of the initiatives that they are all working on. So sales continues to perform strongly. Tess and her team have done an outstanding job. Just this period, they have added 67 new waitlist members from year to date. There are 404 total members on the wait list, and they are averaging about 5.1 appointments each workday, which is close to 450 thus far. We have 16 homes under construction awaiting the arrival of new members. In addition to the efforts of the marketing department, we would also like to thank the members because you too are part of the marketing team here at Vickers Landing. Activities, Janice has quite a bit happening in the month of May. For many of you attended the Kentucky Derby party, and I think that was quite a success based on the pictures that I saw. Looked like everybody was having a great time. Water exercise classes began this week. There was a putting challenge at Oak Bridge just a few days ago, and we have a newcomers gathering on May 19th at Oak Bridge, and the Sawgrass event will be planned shortly after. On May 27th, there'll be a trip to Fresh Ministries Aquaponics Greenhouse. Bruce Borsinger provided a little information about that organization. On the 27th, Will Hurley will perform in the Oak Bridge Dining Room. On the 29th, Jean Nordan will perform at the Sawgrass Dining Room. And then we have an ongoing gathering table offered twice a month in the Sawgrass Dining Room. Donna's department, housekeeping, always busy, performing up to everyone's standards. She wants everyone to know that they have additional housekeeping services available on both campuses. Please avoid, on the day of your housekeeping service, engaging your privacy lock. The housekeepers don't have access to override the lock, and we want to make sure that you receive your scheduled housekeeping service. And if you are planning to be away, which many folks do during the summer, make sure that you complete a leave of absence form and notify housekeeping. During your absence, the housekeeping department will perform a full cleaning during the first week, and then they will conduct periodic checks thereafter. That includes your refrigerator, your AC unit, and your toilet maintenance. From security and transportation, we all know that May is a get ready for hurricane season month. So we have begun to speak to our partnerships with hotels, evacuation sites, transportation, and all of the bus companies that we work with. As we know, hurricane season begins June 1st. So please, if you have not already done so, submit your member evacuation information form outlining what you will do in the event that we face an evacuation. Alternate access registration. Kendall shared a little bit about Purple Pass. So if you would like to access Purple Pass and you've not registered your vehicle, please see a member of the Security and Transportation Department, either Scott, Chris, or Toy. And please note that there is a limit to the number of vehicles per household. In dining services, we're getting ready for the Memorial Day buffet. There will be a cookout on both campuses with traditional fare. Market Day will be June 3rd outside of the Blue Heron. And Robert and his team are introducing new wine menus on both campuses. And there is a planned safari night in the Sawgrass Dining Room on June 12th. Plant operations, as always, very busy. Since January, 2,266 work orders have been completed. The operations team has also handled over 600 contracted work orders with their own team, subcontractors, and vendors while managing more than a dozen renovations. There are several projects that are ongoing. Electrical rooms on the Sawgrass campus have been outfitted with energy-efficient lighting and multi-motion sensor switches to reduce the use of energy when not in use. The main kitchen generator at Sawgrass is scheduled for replacement next month, and the new generator will transition from diesel to natural gas. Landscaping around the H&E buildings near the transformers have also been updated. And for those of you that have noticed, there have been some changes around H building. The curbing has been redesigned to improve safety, and those upgrades include new landscaping, crosswalk painting, and a new stop sign, all intended to ensure our safety. Due to drought conditions, although you wouldn't have known that much from the last week, some of the landscaping areas on both campuses are being closely monitored. Proposals for landscape enhancements are currently under review, and a new pond maintenance provider is also being selected. Installation of the new sliding glass doors that were scheduled for today at the Oak Ridge campus have unfortunately been delayed. The providers have experienced a delay in shipping and transit, causing a necessary rescheduling. We hope to hear more next week on when those doors will be replaced. And the operations team is actively working through submitted requests from member building and landscape committees. Under health services, the therapy department continues to seek certifications and licensures that will impact the members at our community to the best of their abilities. We have a therapist that is now a vestibular rehabilitation therapist. For those of you, if you've ever had a vertigo episode, this is often a traditional therapy that is used to correct that. Lymphedema therapy, and then again, we are in the second phase of the LEAD framework initiative, which is leveraging existing abilities in dementia. This program is intended to assist our members who have difficulty remembering or cognitive loss with working with them based on what they do well, not on what they're not doing well, which has traditionally been the program for working with those with cognitive disorders. Many celebrations in the Stratford and in the Windsor this month for National Nurses Week, which was celebrated from May 5th to 9th, and that was honoring all of our very dedicated staff and caregivers. In June, we will be celebrating our certified nursing assistants, so they will also have a week of celebration. And next, wellness. So first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who attended the Health and Wellness Fair. We anticipated we'd have about 90 individuals attending. We were overwhelmed that 130 members attended the Health and Wellness Fair. The vendors reported very good feedback from those that they spoke with, and we've committed to making this an annual event, and we already have the dates scheduled for 2026. So thank you to all who attended. You certainly made this a much greater success than we could have ever hoped. So we do have some new offerings that have been made available during the month of May. As of May 1st, we changed in-house laboratories. The health center and the assisted living have always had lab services, as did the Sawgrass campus. The current provider that we had really did not have the capacity to move to Oak Ridge, and we struggled finding someone that does have the capacity to serve every member in our community. So Vista Laboratory joined us on May 1st. They are providing lab services at Sawgrass, Oak Ridge, and in all of our healthcare settings. And when the memory care and assisted living buildings open, they will also provide services to those environments. If you do need any assistance, please contact the wellness nurse on your campus. Gabriella and Jennifer will be very happy to assist you in utilizing this much needed service. Some of the feedback that we received during the Health and Wellness Fair was that individuals were interested in the Integrated Memory Enhancement Program that we offer in a 5-hour class, 2 days a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. So we took a tally of individuals who might want to attend for 3 hours versus the full day of 5 hours. And I'm very happy to announce that we had several people attend this week. They attended from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and they are expressing a great deal of satisfaction with the shorter time frame, but feel that they are really enjoying the class and it doesn't take up quite so much time. So we hope to see a little more utilization of that offering. And then also on May 29th, there is an article in the Vicar's Voice that will be offering a glimpse of the IMEP class. In the auditorium, we will be teaching some of the curriculum to members who might have an interest, and so that we can share some of the attributes of the program. We are asking for RSVPs, as we do need to provide paperwork and handouts and worksheets for those that attend, and that way we are prepared. Lastly, the in-home medication management services that are available through Vickers Landing Home Health are up and running on the campus. We have a few clients that the staff are managing their medications in their homes. So if you do feel that you would like to know more about the service, or if you feel that it might benefit you, please contact Amy Batchelor. And I just have one more update. We really don't like to talk about COVID, but they did change the up-to-date definition just this past quarter. So up until the end of March, if you were up to date if you had received one vaccine in the last 12 months. So currently, it is 2 vaccinations for individuals 65 years and older during the time frame of 2024 to 2025. Our last clinic on the campus was in October of 2024, so we have contacted CVS to see if they would be willing to come back out and conduct another clinic to provide the COVID vaccine to members who might want to take advantage of the second vaccine. Otherwise, please contact your primary care physician, and we will provide updates on the potential for another CVS clinic on campus. And that concludes my report. I'm going to hand over to Pyle.
Good afternoon, my name is Kyle. I am the Chief Human Resources Officer here. So we've had a lot going on, as many of you have seen in the Vicar's Voice, and have also heard over the last couple of months. I've been talking about a HR podcast. So the initial progress with this podcast is we have recorded 2 episodes of our first podcast. I did put out a request to a lot of members to see if they would want to join us. We are going to record some more later on in the year as well. So if you do want to take part in the podcast, please feel free to. The more residents that we have, the better it is for us. And the whole purpose of this podcast is to have employees, residents, and some of our vendors talk about workplace topics, and just through casual, fun conversation as well. So that will be going out onto Cubigo for everybody to listen to, and then it'll be on Podbean and also the iPhone and Samsung podcast apps that they both have as well. So you can listen to it as well. We encourage you to listen to it, and we encourage all of the residents and members to take part. So feel free to let us know if you would like to. We also just had our employee engagement survey results come through the other week, and I would just like to say that close to 90% of our employees feel that Vickers Landing is a great place to work. So that's a kudos to everybody as well. And you guys make that happen, so thank you. And I'm going to hand it over to Bruce.
Thank you. Yes, I got to hear some of the raw footage from the 2 podcasts that were done, and certainly wanted to thank Ms. Grander and Mr. Van Vleck for participating. They added a lot of wonderful color to those, so once they finish editing, we'll get you information on how you can hear those. So a lot of fun. And since Pyle mentioned the employee satisfaction survey, I did have some communication with Mrs. Mock, and just will share with you. As you know, we've recently asked you to take the resident satisfaction survey. That's being conducted by our Novari, a group with which we're affiliated, has a research arm, and so Mather Institute is working on compiling all the data right now, and as soon as we have that, we will share that with everyone, and that really helps us to look for areas that we can improve. So I appreciate everyone who took the time to complete that survey. And I did have some questions ahead of time, but let me address a rumor that I heard recently. And the rumor was that there were not sightings of workers in the construction zone at Oak Bridge, which meant that we were out of money and the construction was stopping. That's false. We have the money in hand. We continue to see the work done. You will see it going on. You'll see right now they're putting up the roof beams on the memory care center, and they're working up to the 4th floor on the assisted living building. And so I assure you those workers are there, and that construction is going very well. So the questions that were submitted ahead of time. I will start with this one. It says, why are we at Oak Bridge having to deal with our facilities being overcrowded by associate members? A, they use our pool, and on at least one occasion, we're a group of 3, leaving no swim lane for a member. B, they have on at least one occasion brought guests to our club, leaving no room at our bar for members. And C, they come to our special events, like the Kentucky Derby Party, which should be for members only. This might not have been a problem before Oak Bridge, but the benefits for an associate member, other than being on our wait list, needs to be reviewed. So I will answer that in part, and in the 3 parts. But first of all, the reason for the associate member program is that we want associates to enjoy the lifestyle, to meet their future neighbors, and to get excited about moving in when a home is available for them, just as you may have done as an associate member previously before you moved in. I did some research related to the dining question after hearing that similar concern from various members, and so I wanted to see what the data showed. I used the month of March as a sample month, and I found that in March, Oak Bridge members were served 6,010 meals. That same month, Sawgrass members were served 157 meals at Oak Bridge, and associate members were served 57 meals at Oak Bridge. There were also 638 guest meals, and the vast majority of those were guests of Oak Bridge residents. So in the end, around 93% of all the meals that were served were directly related to Oak Bridge residents. So I don't think that it's associate members that are creating an issue for dining, but that's something we'll continue to monitor. Now, another area that was addressed is guests having, associate members inviting guests to the property. And I appreciate you sharing that. Associate members should not be bringing guests who are not also members or associate members. And so we have written a note to go out to associate members to remind them of that. We will also address associate member attendance at special functions. We have traditionally limited special functions to members, and we'll more clearly communicate that in various ways for special events going forward. So thank you for bringing that up. The second question says, does Life Care Ponte Vedra have a conflict of interest policy? And if so, what are the provisions and how is it administered? So it is a typical policy stating that conflicts must be disclosed, and a board member is not allowed to vote on something that relates to a potential conflict. So it is a board policy. The question was a rather broad question, and it was unsigned. So if there is some specific instance that prompted that question, I'm happy to talk to you and give you a more detailed answer. But we do indeed have a conflict of interest policy, and it is reviewed by the board. The next question has several parts. The first part says, the days cash on hand liquidity ratio meets the bond covenants, but is far below the current CARF, which is the Commission for the Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities, which is the agency that accredits us. So it's below the CARF 75th and 50th percentile of 640 and 439 days respectively for this ratio. How does Vickers Landing Board and LCPS management plan to increase this ratio to increase Vickers' financial stability to meet short-term obligations, manage cash flow, and manage a non-expected crisis? So first of all, this question could be a bit misleading, so I want to be clear. We have plenty of liquidity to meet any obligations or crisis situations. The ratio says that if we were to get absolutely no more revenue as of this moment, how many days worth of cash do we have available to cover expenses? So that's what it's about. And as you heard from Todd, at the end of March we had 283 days, and our bond covenant is 150 days. So the dip from previous years was expected with the development of Oak Bridge, and our focus on traditional rather than refundable contracts. They bring in a lower dollar amount. Traditional entrance fees are cheaper than the refundable contracts, and so there's less income coming in from those. But it is all trending as expected, and it is improving greatly. So some areas we are monitoring to continue the positive trend are reducing contract labor, as you heard from Todd, limiting vendors and maximizing rebates and discounts from them. We bid out work where appropriate to ensure the best pricing, and if needed, we can always delay non-essential expenses. The second part of this person's question reads, Vickers Landing has been doing business as Vickers Landing for years. Its legal name is Life Care Ponte Vedra, Inc., DBA Vickers Landing. The name Vickers Landing is how it is known in the community. The corporation's name, Vickers Landing, is the corporation's goodwill, brand, reputation, and is Vickers Landing's greatest asset along with its location. The management company has always been operated under the name LCPS Management, Inc. However, LCPS Management is now using the name Vickers Landing Senior Services, Inc. And I will take an aside right here to say, for a correction, it is not a corporation. Vickers Landing Senior Services is a DBA. So it is LCPS Management, Inc. doing business as Vickers Landing Senior Services. And LCPS Management manages Vickers Landing, but it does not own Vickers Landing or its assets. How was this authorized? So Life Care Ponte Vedra and LCPS Management, as you probably are aware, have a common parent organization in Life Care Pastoral Services. That board is the governing body that authorizes the creation of a DBA or a new corporation, so that's how that came about. The third part of the question reads, there appears that there are new online advertisements to the public to move into Stratford and Windsor Health Center. Vickers Landing is a CCRC, and in the past, the only access to Stratford and long-term care and the Windsor Health Center was through independent living at Vickers Landing. There were approximately 6 short-term only rehab beds in Windsor Health Center available, but only for short-term use. Was this the policy in the past? Has this policy been changed? Can non-residents of Vickers now move into Stratford and Windsor Health Center without first being Vickers Landing independent residents? If so, how does this affect Vickers Landing's status as a CCRC and the current Vickers residents' need and demand for these assisted and long-term services? So the answer is that Vickers Landing has always had the ability to care for non-residents in the health center, and through the 18 years that I have been here, we have done so several times when there are available rooms in the health center. We've always kept a few rooms available in case an independent resident has a need for them. Doing so, bringing in outside folks adds additional revenue, which helps to keep monthly service fee income lower. We do not typically bring outside residents into the Stratford, though there is not a prohibition. When the Stratford opened in 1998, many of the apartment homes there were filled with residents who received a life care contract that started in assisted living and allowed them use in the health center. All of those residents have since passed, but when we open the new assisted living, that is an option available to us if we have more capacity than current need. In regard to the comment about advertisements, we do not advertise for direct admission into any of the healthcare areas, and I checked with Tess and the outside group that supports our marketing efforts, and none of them were aware of any advertisements. We've not put anything out. Finally, bringing in outside people in no way affects our status as a CCRC, because that's related to your contract and not to the facilities themselves. The contract states that you will have healthcare services, but regulations don't stipulate that it has to be in a specific building. The next question reads, it was recently announced that Dale Perkle and Darren Roy are retiring, but will be paid as consultants for a period of time. So are they really retiring? Under this arrangement, it would appear that overall management costs, whether in the form of salaries or consulting fees, will likely go up more than normal. Can you please explain the necessity for this, and when do the consulting agreements terminate? So first, those salaries and the consulting agreements fall under the management company, LCPS Management or Vickers Landing Senior Services. And so it isn't a cost of Vickers Landing. It's something that I have to budget for separately in the management company. They were two very seasoned executives who had experience, and they were replaced by extremely competent individuals who had not previously held those executive roles. So the pay rates were not an equal trade-off. There were savings. The agreements are written for a year with renewal and termination clauses, as you would expect. Darren's is expected to last no longer than a year. Dale's will depend on our construction work and his openness to continuing to help. As you heard earlier today, he was down at the county working to help us get the parking garage going. He's working on the pedestrian access. Dale still has energy for that, but not on a full-time basis. The next question says, is there a plan to address the problem at Oak Ridge campus where we cannot get dinner reservations even a few days in advance and even early, like 5 p.m.? Does it relate to too many associate members? So as you heard in a previous question, I don't believe it's related to associate members, but we do have booking time frames every 15 minutes, which is just like any restaurant would do. That helps control the flow into the kitchen and the dining experience of the diners. So if a 5 p.m. time slot is not available, let's say we seat 15 or 20 people at 5 p.m. and those slots are available, then the person who answers the phone should be recommending 5:15 or 5:30 where there is space available. So as we understand it, that's not a persistent concern. So if you have more specific scenarios that help us address this, please come talk to Robert or to Elizabeth or Kendall or myself. Next, can you tell us anything about what is being built on the lots where the old medical arts building were? So this refers to the property that's under construction at the entrance to Sawgrass Village and adjacent to our new assisted living. So the old Prudential building that was just a terrible eyesore for so long. So Chase Bank purchased that, and they now own that property, and they are putting a 2-story branch at that site. They will close the branch that's adjacent to Publix and move it into that new building, and they will have a drive-up ATM on the west side of that property. Now, they also have a wealth management office in the building where Medurs and Ruth Chris are. I'm not sure, but maybe they'll move the wealth management offices up to the second floor of the new building, but I'm not sure about that. And then finally, the monies allotted to us for food, if it is not used, go back to Vickers. Can we as members consider it a donation to Vickers and declare that amount on our taxes? Then Vickers could declare it a donation on their taxes. Would this be legal? So, unfortunately, no, this is not a possibility. As a reminder, the dining dollars do not equate to actual dollars. They're a tool to help you have the most flexibility in how you'll spend the meal allocation that you're given throughout the month. So, an example, maybe this will help. For instance, under the old system, the contract said members were to receive 1 meal a day. The way that we calculated that on a financial basis was we took an evening meal, appetizer, entree, dessert, and non-alcoholic beverage, and we called that a meal. So if you chose breakfast instead, which is a less expensive meal, or if you had dinner and you declined dessert, you forfeited the opportunity to maximize that meal that day. So this is the same. If you're not spending all your dining dollars, it's nothing more than forfeiting the opportunity to maximize what you're allowed under the plan. So it's not real dollars, so there isn't any tax benefit to not using that. So hopefully, I hope that helps understand. I know we've had some concerns, and that's been a complex issue, but hopefully that helps you with clarity. So those are the questions that were submitted ahead of time, and I'm happy to take questions from the floor. I'll just ask that you please wait until Enver comes with the microphone so everyone can hear your question. Yes, Mr. Carter.
Is the mic close enough?
Yes, sir.
Related to your, the part of your presentation where you talked about the new skilled nursing slant, memory care building, and the assisted living building. So when those are completed, if you do not have sufficient play from this campus and the other campus to move people into those spaces, then from your earlier comments, I would deduce that we would bring in people from the outside, correct?
That is a possibility.
Possibility. Well, connection, that's part of phase 3, and the new parking garage is also part of phase 3, right?
Right?
And note number 9 in the auditor's report for last year, there was a mention of the fact that $1.5 million development consulting fee was going to be paid until phase 3 was completed.
Okay.
Okay. So if you don't have any revenue coming in from the new buildings from existing residents, aren't you going to have to go out and solicit to add to your revenue to pay off the principal and interest on the 2024 drawdown bond?
That was all in the projections and in the feasibility from the beginning. That's all part of the project costs. So the projections show that the principal and interest for the bonds that were taken out for that project will be paid from operations over time. There will be additional revenue from those spaces because over time people will need to use those spaces, and then their homes and independent living will be backfilled by people on the wait list, which adds additional revenue and entrance fees. So it is paid over time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And just as a segue to something that Bob was talking about, if you read the Vicar's Voice today, you saw in my section, I told you that we've revisited the master plan to get that going again. And you may recall that a big component of the master plan for the Sawgrass campus is a rebuilding of our healthcare areas. And so while that's happening, we may need capacity over at Oak Ridge for people who are here. So we're not just going to go out and blanket, fill those spots with outside folks, because we want to make sure that you all have your needs met, especially as we're working on that next construction project. So, other questions? There's one over here. Edward?
What is the capacity of the memory care and also assisted living?
So we will have 18 memory care homes. That'll be all on the first floor of the northernmost building. And the assisted living will have 43 homes on that campus, in addition to the 38 homes we have on the Sawgrass campus of assisted living and 60 beds of skilled nursing.
So assisted living will have 43 at the new campus and continue to have 38 at this campus.
Until we get the master plan going, yes.
But it won't go into the 70s. In other words, you're going to close down the assisted living on this side at some point.
We won't close it down, we will rebuild it. There will actually be more assisted living once we rebuild on this campus and fewer nursing home beds. We don't have as much of a need for nursing homes, and that is the trend in the industry. Nursing homes are shrinking their footprints. So we'll have fewer nursing home beds, more assisted living. We'll also add memory care on this campus.
So there are 18 on the new campus.
Correct.
And how many are you positioning for this campus for memory?
16? Yes. The current plan is 16. That's still in flux. As I mentioned in the article, we're getting ready to meet with the committee to review all that. That includes several members that were named in that article.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ms. MacArthur has a question.
In response to your answer to the question concerning the use of Vickers Landing's name,
Yes, ma'am.
it's a very convoluted situation with Pastoral, the management company, and Vickers. Pastoral and the management company have the same board, is that not correct?
Correct.
And Vickers has its own board,
Correct.
but our president sits on the management company's board, is that not correct?
Correct.
So
The
at an
chairman.
arm's length transaction and the protection of our assets, how did it come about that you're allowed to use our name?
It was a decision by the board. LCPS management has no recognition. Vickers Landing has brand recognition, as you say. It makes sense, and so it was something that the board authorized.
And so is there a contract to that effect?
There is a management contract, as you know. You've seen it.
Right, but that had nothing to do with this. Is there a contract for the use of our name, Vickers Landing?
No, there's not a contract for the use of the name.
So there's no financial remuneration going back to Vickers,
No, it's not a trademark or anything like that.
but it's our name, it's our goodwill,
Right.
it's our asset.
And the management company hasn't done anything to mar that.
But you consider the management company separate? do
It
you
is a
not?
separate organization, yes.
Right. So it's very concerning.
I'm sorry you feel it's concerning. I think the board spent some time looking at that and felt that it was appropriate. Other questions? Ms. Palmer?
Yes. To follow up comments for the LCPS Management Company, it is a for-profit
No, it
corporation.
is not for profit.
It is not.
It is not for profit.
On your website, and the retirement refine, what is that for profit?
There is a separate organization called Retirement Redefined that has no business at the moment. That was created several years ago when we did separately manage a for-profit assisted living facility, but there's nothing happening in that business right now.
So with your new management company, the new name tags that we see now, how many other entities do you manage?
We manage Vickers Landing right now. We also technically have Retirement Redefined if something were to happen in the future, but there's nothing being managed under that at this point.
So you'll be looking for other properties to manage besides Vickers?
That is a possibility under the structure, yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions? Okay, I don't see any other hands, so thank you very much for your participation and presence here today. I hope you have a good evening.